It's time now for Carter's Corner. Everything Bay Area sports on the Northern California Sports and Entertainment Network. Here is your host, Carter Kim.
Hello, people of Earth. Welcome back to the show. I am Carter Kim, here talking about Bay Area sports, baseball, basketball, football. We're talking about everything. I will talk about national sports. I'll talk about the MLB in general. I'll talk about the NFL, the NBA. I'll talk about everything. The only thing I could not get my expertise about is hockey because I'll have to learn that. But anyway, today I come to you after the Giants have played the Baltimore Orioles in the final game. Logan Webb gets hit around a little bit by Jackson Holliday and the Orioles. He has a rough day. Ryan Walker gets homered off of because a fan interferes with Mark Canha's catch on the ball. Maybe it wouldn't have been caught, but I guess we'll never know because the fan decided to interfere. Ladies and gentlemen, we were having a good day yesterday because we beat the Orioles. It was a really good day. We had 2 wins against 2 of their better players. Zach Eflin, hey, pretty sure he had a good day as well. Or did he? No, he didn't. He had 4 or 5 earned runs. Or was it? No, sorry. This is outdated information. My fault. Let me just get that information for everybody right now. Oh, yeah, we lost 5-3. Same score as yesterday, funnily enough. Zach Eflin has a good day. 5 Ks, 2 earned runs. Logan Webb gets rocked. But Ryan Walker ends up being the thing that brings the death blow as he's homered off of by Anthony Santander. Really tough stuff today. But hey, that's just baseball. Some things come at you fast. But we'll go on to Kansas City. We'll see how all this goes. I mean, yeah, just a tough loss. I mean, Logan Webb didn't even pitch terribly. He had 8 Ks and played a good game. Just some things didn't go his way. He was able to minimize Baltimore's damage, which was good. We had some good relief help, but yeah, it was that fan that interfered on Mark Canha's attempt to catch the ball, and that was definitely a bizarre moment. But you can't replay it now. Game's over. But something else I didn't get to report on: the Giants actually beat the Orioles yesterday, 5-3, same score. Interesting. With the help of a couple other guys, Hayden Birdsong plays well. Eric Miller, Sean Jelly, Tyler Rogers, and Ryan Walker clean up well. But we don't end up winning the final game, the bread game of the series. We're trying to play spoiler, and as of today, since we just lost, we are officially eliminated from the playoffs. Even though we all knew we weren't going to make the playoffs, it's still a little weird feeling because, well, it's too bad, really. But we kind of knew with the anchor that is Farhan Zaidi that we weren't going to go too far. But looking around the league, there are some teams that actually clinch playoff spots. The Yankees clinch a playoff spot after a horrible base running mistake by Julio Rodriguez. The Cleveland Guardians clinch a playoff spot after their win against the Minnesota Twins. The Milwaukee Brewers have finally clinched the NL Central over the Cardinals and the Cubs, easily, I might add. Along with that, we have other teams getting ready to vie for playoff spots. The Phillies are supposedly 7 games away from winning. Let's just see how this goes, because also we're coming up against another wild card team, the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, Emoji, I agree. Finally, no more playoff talk. Well, we will be talking about the playoffs from other teams' perspectives. We'll be watching some other teams in the playoffs that I might enjoy talking about: the Royals, the Diamondbacks, the Astros, along with the Guardians and a couple others. We'll see how all this goes, but it's going to be fun to watch those teams rather than having playoff talk for this team, because in the end of the day, we weren't actually going to make the playoffs, especially after that Braves series a couple months ago. Yeah, it's too bad, really. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about that anymore. But yeah, continuing to look around the league, A lot of other teams got eliminated. The Reds and the Pirates got eliminated. The Nationals and the Marlins got eliminated. The White Sox have been eliminated since the beginning of time. A's and the Angels have been eliminated from playoff contention as well. But we shall see, because right now in the wild card, it is still a tight race between the Diamondbacks, Mets, Padres, and Braves. And we all know that those elitist Cardinals will never make it, especially when they make it, they get beat up by better teams. But let's see how this thing goes, because it's going to be interesting to see how the final days of the season wind down. I talked with Glenn about this on Jock and the Doc, that this thing is really just going to be going down to the final day for a lot of these wild card teams, a lot of these divisions, especially considering how we just beat the Orioles really badly. I think it's going to be very tough for them to win the division between them and the Yankees now. And you got to hope that they don't get trapped by the new wild card, but just not look good for them as far as I'm concerned. But we will see, because the best teams are always able to resiliently win, and that's what the Orioles did today. But in other news, really good news for the San Francisco 49ers, Talanoa Hufanga is going to be coming off of the injured list. He will be playing again for the San Francisco 49ers because he has served his time on the IL for his horrible ACL tear that he had versus the Buccaneers. It'll be nice to have him back because he is an integral part of that defense in the secondary. He's a great player, and it was too bad to have him missing for the Super Bowl because that was really helpful. The same way we had Dre Greenlaw injured. Really is too bad for this team, but yeah. Moji, hopefully it forces the Giants to make quality moves and improve the team in the offseason. I think that is what's going to happen, because I think a lot of the time when a team is fallen so far from grace, they realize they can't do things a certain way anymore. And I think that hopefully that the Giants will fire Farhan Zaidi because he has done a horrible job in the 6 years as a GM. It has been said in the San Francisco Chronicle by a lot of people that are criticizing Farhan that he has had 6 years of mediocrity for this team, along with one bizarro season where he was carried by Buster Posey, Brandon Belt, and Brandon Crawford. That's not a sustainable formula for success, and he should not be allowed to be the guy who manages this team, leads this team in any way. What does that tell you about the culture of this team, that guy has been able to lead this team for such a long time, and we have had no culture and no improvement to the team? I mean, fourth, third, and others, we have not been able to succeed in doing the one thing that this team seemed competitive to do in that 2021 season, which was compete for the division. And we can't do that anymore. This team needs to get younger. It needs to get ready for the future, because this team cannot rest on the past laurels of those 5 years, as good as we were during those 5 years. I mean, what are you going to do? This team has to, most of all, be able to take a big swing in a free agent. Teams, a lot of people are saying that our chances of getting Juan Soto are slim. I agree. But we need to go out and try and sign somebody who can be the future of this franchise, that can be the cornerstone, that one guy that can be, we can say, he's our constant, he's our superstar. You got to hope that Juan Soto can get back soon, because that guy is truly one of the best when he's on the field. The problem is that we're going to have to be breathing down the necks of the guys like the New York Yankees, the Mets, even the Nationals and the Phillies. But I do think with the issues of salary, I think that the San Francisco Giants can definitely try and take a shot at this thing. It's just about trying to figure out the right free agents to sign. And I'm hoping that Buster Posey, becoming the new player baseball operations guy, will be able to run this team in a better way, because I trust him far more than I trust Farhan. Because he's already shown in the first few weeks, hey, I can re-sign somebody to good enough extension. I don't know if that was the best move with Matt Chapman, but it was certainly better than sitting on your hands and doing nothing. But anyway, this team will hopefully do better than what it's doing right now after that horrible guy Farhan is fired, because he has clearly shown the incompetence and lack of leadership that it takes to be a player of operations guy at the San Francisco Giants. I mean, you just hope that this dark chapter of our history can be closed soon and we can move on to the future. But yeah, continuing to look around the league, the Minnesota Twins are struggling right now. They are no games back of the Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Tigers are 80-73. The Minnesota Twins are 80-73. They are slipping and they are sliding. It is a bad time for them up in the Twin Cities, and the Detroit Tigers, Steel City, they are looking to take it right from the grasp of the Twins. Along with that, the Mariners are also trying to be serious. I doubt that they will do it because it seems a little too late. But just looking around the league, it's going to be interesting to see how the playoffs turn out because I really am interested in all this. It's going to be fun. It will be fun to watch all this happen. I mean, it'll be nice as Giants fans to watch some spirited baseball possibly. But hey, let's just enjoy ourselves. And as a wise, and as a song once said, let's just enjoy the show because that's all we can do now. I mean, let's see how the young guys do. Let's see who's going to stay next season. Let's see if there's a possibility that Snell stays. I mean, you got to hope that this thing can really, that we can succeed in the future because we cannot have another year like this. And first things first, that has to happen in order to make sure that we can continue this, that we can, no, not continue this, that we can continue on to the future is we have to get rid of the source of the problem and why we have been underachieving these last 5 seasons, which is getting rid of Farhan Zaidi and preventing him from being ever involved in baseball operations for this team because he is clearly not the answer to the problems of this organization because he is the cause of the problems to this organization. But let's get off that for a minute because tonight, as I talked on Jock and the Doc with Glenn and all the other people, the Patriots play the New York Jets. And that's going to be one of the most ugly games of this year. I think that the Patriots and the Jets are going to be heavily defensive. I think the Jets actually might get gashed for the run a lot of the time. I think Jacoby Brissett is going to play boring football. I think that the offense is not going to be that exciting. It's going to be a low-scoring affair. It will be – both teams will score under 20 points. I think that – and I'm very confident in saying that. But hey, let's see how all this goes. I mean, that's what I say every show, isn't it? Let's just see how this goes because we can't really predict the future, can we? We don't have glass ball. We don't have a glass ball. We don't have the ability to look into a crystal ball and say, hey, we know exactly what's going to happen. We can predict because we see a body of work and we know what we're talking and we think we know what we're talking about, but sometimes we don't. And we'll have to see. But I do think that looking at the game and looking how it's going to go, yeah. Walton is trash, Graham Shanahan. I agree. I don't know what the hell that bunt was. That was one of the most horribly executed bunts I've ever seen in my life, and Adley Rutschman was easily able to track it down. I don't know why that guy is up here right now because he is clearly not that good. That's obvious to most people who actually watch baseball. Those reps should be going to somebody younger who should be getting a shot or a chance to try and do something. And you can talk about Luciano and all his faults and all the things that he's been doing wrong as a second baseman or as a hitter. He needs the chance to be able to do something, and Walton is stopping that. He's not actually that good. And the only reason, there's no real reason to bring him up other than to fill a defensive role. And yeah, he's absolutely abhorrent and horrific as a player. Leave it to Slater to almost hurt Mullins with incompetence? Yeah, I agree. I mean, in those situations when the ball is coming through the air, you got to understand what the hell you're supposed to do as a fielder. And he definitely almost hurt Mullins because he was trying to go for the ball. I'm not sure Mullins would have caught it anyway. Hi, Ed. How you doing? Welcome to the show. it's just such a bad decision in a lot of ways because he crashed right into Mullins and it could have been disaster. I thought he was concussed for a minute. And, well, we lost anyway, despite the incompetence of another player. We really could have won that game, but instead we made horrible decisions. Slater isn't used to playing next to an all-star outfielder. Not really. He's not. I mean, he did play with Ramos, but that's like a very Jesus, man, that guy is so bad. He's not that good. Like, only thing that he was there for was just to hit lefties, and that's all he could do. He couldn't really field. He couldn't really hit anything else. He wasn't really good as a leadoff guy. He couldn't steal bases. He was just kind of there as a blah guy that wasn't actually that great. I mean, honestly, just whatever. Just good riddance. See you later. Goodbye. But hey, we're eliminated from playoff contention. So, and the Orioles are actually going to go to the playoffs. Yeah. Just gotta wish that the Orioles could really try and do like the Orioles. I wish that we could be the Orioles, that we could like actually develop talent. But yeah, Slater and Canna are bona fide rally killers, most definitely. I mean, you have a rally going, you have guys on base, and they strike out or they whiff or they make a horrible decision where they bunt or kick it up the middle. And Canna just made a horrible hit and allowed him to ground into a double play. You know, Mark Canna actually has some of the worst stats when it comes to contact. Let me just get these stats actually. I'm gonna get these stats because I really need to emphasize how bad this guy is at like making contact. Now I'm gonna share my screen really quickly because I really want to emphasize how bad this guy is at like. Okay, so here's the information. This is his average exit velocity. It is average, if not poor. He has a horrible batting average. He can't hit for extra bases or power. He doesn't hit the ball particularly hard. He has a bad sweet spot, and he doesn't have enough bat speed to compensate for all these things. Now, all of these other things are okay, I guess, but he doesn't really do anything else. Look at all these things. He can't do anything besides square the ball up. He doesn't chase too much, but his whiff and strikeout percentages aren't great, and he does walk, but that's it. He doesn't really do anything else besides those things. And he is in the bottom 6% of MLB in expected batting average, bottom 2% in expected slugging percentage, and bottom 5% of MLB in this specific stat right here. He's just so bad at creating runs. And when that happens, you have a reliability in the lineup. When you have a guy like that who plays the game this way and he kills a rally, it makes it difficult to win games. And Mark Canna really doesn't do anything, which is what even more surprising why we had decided to pick him up at the deadline, because Farhan Zaidi was basically trying to find a platoon guy that could play as a right-handed bat in the first base spot and who could play as a right-handed bat in the first base spot while Lamont was going up against righties. This is why I hate platooning. You really need to find somebody really good that can hit both lefties and righties. Freddie Freeman's a left-handed hitter. Does he get confused by lefties? No, he actually hits lefties pretty well. I'm going to get those stats too. Let me just get his stats versus left-handed hitters. Actually, he hits them worse. You know what? I'll shut up now. Far on targets, cheap guys who have one decent attribute. I mean, if hunting for one attribute guys, I get Harrison Bader's glove due to can actually bunt and or steal. That's not unreasonable. I mean, like, that is the problem with Farhan Zaidi and his philosophy. Moneyball, which is the philosophy he thinks he's doing, it consists of trying to find guys who can do one attribute or have one thing that's really good about them and then can do really nothing else. I mean, in my opinion, the problem with doing that is that you have guys that are totally one-dimensional. You have to have a guy who can do one thing really well and then three things also like decently. Like, I'm never gonna say that, like, a lot of people point to Juan Soto, for example. So Juan Soto is one of the best hitters in MLB. And a lot of people say, oh, he's not a great fielder because he's a little bit clunky in the outfield. Well, he can, like, throw people out at first base, at home or at second base. And that makes him good enough to a point where people are like, okay, he's good enough to, like, play in the outfield. And guys like that are the reason why they're paid so much money, because you have someone that is good enough, who is good at one thing, like really good at one thing, but has a couple other things that are good. Like Harrison Bader, he has a good glove and he can bunt and steal, but he's, not a great hitter necessarily. Well, he can do those other things well. And that allows him to get on base, which can create scoring opportunities. And you really just need that on your team. You don't necessarily need a guy who can, I don't know, you don't necessarily need a guy who has just one stat or one thing about him that's really good, because that's all Farhan does. He doesn't really get anybody that's really good at, like, a couple different things. Like, there's only a couple guys on this team that are good at a couple different things that can be considered really good players. Like, Fitz is a really good bat, but he's also got a decent glove. Ramos is also a really good bat, and he's also got a good glove, and he can play well in that left field. Jung-Hoo Lee might have been the one guy that he could have gotten who it's like, oh yeah, he's a good leadoff hitter. He's got decent power. He can hit left-handed, and he can steal bases and play a really good center field. But that's the problem with Farhan. He doesn't make acquisitions that are based on the upside of somebody. Because if you take a swing at a guy that is like maybe a question mark at a couple other things, but is really good at several things, then you can say, oh yeah, I can take a chance on this guy. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. But you shouldn't be taking guarantees on a guy that's really good at one thing, but not good at other things. You need the guys that are multifaceted when it comes to baseball nowadays. You can't just have the Moneyball thing where it's like, oh yeah, I can have one guy or a couple guys who do one thing good, and then I can, win with that instead of doing anything else. It just doesn't work that way anymore, because Moneyball isn't a trade secret. It's out for the entire world to see. And that's what creates a problem for the Giants right now, is that we're trying to outsmart everybody with these guys who have one decent attribute, like Grand Admiral says. But that's our biggest problem. We're thinking we can outsmart everybody when we're actually not doing that at all. We're just kind of outsmarting ourselves, actually. But let's just look around I think I want to just take a look at, like, what's going around in the league right now, because it is going to be interesting to see how the playoffs play out, because I'm high on this Arizona Diamondbacks right now, and I think they're going to do well. If I'm going to talk about the AL, I am betting on the Astros, because those guys are still really good. That's just who they are, ladies and gentlemen. That's what the Houston Astros are, the exact opposite of the San Francisco Giants. They take risks on certain people, and they actually turn out well. They're willing to actually do things that are bold and interesting. They're willing to make splashes and do crazy things, because even though a lot of people lambasted them for trading for Yusei Kikuchi for a couple of their good prospects, that move worked out very well for them. And imagine if the San Francisco Giants had traded Blake Snell. If we had traded him at the deadline, I think we could have gotten a solid haul of prospects from the Orioles, for example, that really need him. I mean, the Orioles, they really need one other ace, because if they can get two really top-end starters, they could go far. But right now, they have Corbin Burns and nobody else, pretty much, except for, like, Zach Eflin. And Zach Eflin's been having a great year, but he's not an ace. So just looking at this entire thing, it's going to be interesting to see how the playoffs turn out, because I'm really into playoff baseball and the chaos of it all. But it's going to be interesting to see how all that turns out. And the Giants need to be looking forward most of all to next year and how that's all going to turn out, because San Francisco Giants are a comedy of an organization because we're getting beat by the White Sox. That's all we need to say. They're being beat by the Marlins in a series. That's a joke. We're being beat by teams we need to beat in order to make it. Like, this team was supposed to be a playoff team, apparently. We have the best pitching staff in baseball, apparently. That's not the case, is it? We have 2 good starters. One of them is a little sporadic sometimes, especially in the last month. The other one's really good, but he can't carry it all by himself because he doesn't have enough bats behind him to help him. I mean, just look around you, man. Like, this team could really have shown potential. But the thing is, all of the players that are playing good were never a part of the plan. Elliot Ramos and Tyler Fitzgerald were never supposed to be a part of the plan for the San Francisco Giants. They were like options, but no one was like, you know what? Let's bring him up. Let's bring Tyler Fitzgerald up and give him a chance. No, they weren't going to do that. Elliot Ramos, the whole story with him is that he was like cut in spring training and then came back, and then we brought him up and he plays really well and becomes an all-star. Like, you never give the right guys the chance. I mean, look at what we did to Luis Matos. He was playing super well. He was knocking in RBIs, playing great. Then we move him up to the leadoff spot for no damn reason. Why would you do that? When a guy's playing well, why the hell would you move him up to the leadoff spot? It makes no damn sense. Let me just get those stats. I mean, I looked at Matos during the start of the year, and I thought he was playing very well. And he was playing in that 5th spot in the lineup, the 5 hole. And he was raking in RBIs when people were getting on base. That is the one thing that we're not good at. That's the one thing that we're not good at. We can't rake in RBIs. We're not good at hitting with runners in scoring position. And he was doing that. And what do? Instead of putting ourselves in, instead of not breaking what is currently fixed or what's working, instead of, doing something like that, we decided to break it. We decided, you know what, we're going to do something arrogant and move him up to the leadoff. Why? It's not like he's not an on-base guy. He's a rake. He's the guy who's going to be able to get your runners home from second and third. And that's what we did. That's why this team is so incompetent all the time. It's because we think we need to do something. Sadly, it's because lame software thinks you should put your hottest hitter in leadoff. True, a lot of people say that. They think they are smarter because smarter than 100 years of previous baseball. I think that's true. A lot of people say you should put your hottest hitter in the leadoff spot. It's just the problem is 2 things can be true at the same time. Analytics can be accurate about certain things, and software can be accurate about certain things. But some old baseball ideas can also be accurate. That's the thing. The thing is about Moneyball, it never says, oh, yeah, you have to put these guys in certain positions. Sometimes it does, but you don't necessarily have to put Luis Matos in the leadoff spot because it doesn't make any logical sense, because that is the whole goal of Moneyball, to be logical and to try and make decisions that help the team win. Logically, if a guy is hitting 300 or 280 in the 5th spot and is raking in RBIs, then you should let him keep doing that. Instead, you didn't do that. You took him out and put him in the leadoff spot. And yeah, I get it. The software and a lot of the analytics heads are like, oh yeah, you should put the hottest hitter in the leadoff spot. I get it, because the leadoff spot gets a lot more at bats in baseball. The problem with that notion is when you do that, when you put the guy in the leadoff spot and take him out of a position he's unfamiliar with, then he doesn't play as well sometimes. And instead of doing that, instead of putting him back in the 5th spot, we send him back down, or we dropped him the 7th spot. This team just doesn't logically understand. You need to be able to understand when things work. And when things work, you should keep doing that. Grand Admiral Shanahan. They even lead off McRae, even though they even lead off McRae, and they know he's got so much swing and miss at the same time. Same with Soler and Yaz. They've let lead off all these K-Ray guys. Exactly. You don't want a guy who's in the leadoff spot who strikes out a lot. You need a guy who strikes out the least out of anybody else. and a guy who walks. I mean, look at Luis Ariz. I mean, I actually want to bring up him too. Like, look at Luis Ariz does. He doesn't strike out. The reason why they put him in that leadoff spot, the reason why the Padres put him in the leadoff spot is because he doesn't strike out. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Yeah, he'll ground out and he doesn't walk that much, but whenever he is able to hit, he is able to create, he's able to put the ball in play and get on first base, which is the whole goal. And that is why some teams fail. And the thing is, the Padres have also a good analytics department, and they understand logically, like, I don't need to like shift this thing around and be too smart for everybody. I just need to make sure that this guy can get us on base and start getting this opportunity. Gilbert Gamboa. I'm glad Slater is no longer crashing into San Francisco Giants players. I agree with that. I'm definitely in tune with that. But oh my gosh, that guy was just a lefty specialist. That's it. Like, Austin Slater was just a lefty guy. He was only good at hitting lefties. That's the only reason why we had him here, because he was a guy who could hit lefties at a very opportune time. And other than that, he couldn't do anything. He was not a good lefty hitter. He's just not a good lefty hitter. He's horrible at it, actually. He's just not good. I remember this one time where I think it was a Houston Astros game. We pinch hit Mike Yastrzemski for we pinch hit Mike Yastrzemski for Slater, even though Mike Yastrzemski was going up against Josh Hader. Now, Josh Hader is a lefty, and Yaz is a lefty, but he's shown ownership on what's his name? On Josh Hader. It's just this team doesn't make any sense. Why don't you do stuff that works? Because you don't have to outsmart everybody or win in every single way. You don't have to make these crazy flashy moves and say, oh yeah, they were smart for doing that, making these interesting little niche moves, because they're marginal. They're not actually doing anything. They're just being very, very passive, marginal, and they don't actually do anything. And for that reason, that's why we're not a good baseball team. That's why we're not a good baseball team. And we're going to suffer for the next few years because of Farhan Zaidi's incompetence. We've lost a window of a lot of good opportunity. Because in this time, we could have been developing prospects and creating opportunity for younger players that could become some of the best in the league. I mean, it's a testament to how bad you are as a GM when the guys you discard end up being really damn good. Donnie Barrels down in San Diego, he's doing very good right now. And he's going to go to the playoffs with the Padres, and they're probably going to have a shot at the World Series. Look at this team. Like, Elliot Ramos was never a part of Farhan Zaidi's plan, and look at him. He got to go to the All-Star game. Look at Tyler Fitzgerald. He was sent up and down all the time, and yet he's still doing well. He was hitting for extra bases. He was playing great. I mean, like, that's the thing that Farhan Zaidi doesn't understand. Sometimes old ideas actually work. Hi, Skaters on Baseball. How are you? Just such a joke. And yeah, I agree. I don't like seeing Slater as a Giant. It wasn't fun to have him here because he was such a frustrating player. And Grand Admiral Shanahan, to get back to the other thing, Grant McCray was doing so well down lower in the lineup. You shouldn't have pushed him up to the first spot immediately. It makes no damn sense. Like, if a guy is doing well, like, put him a little higher in the lineup. Like, put him in the 7th spot, the 6th spot, maybe somewhere else. Like, as a guy does better and better, then you can start putting him up higher in the spots. But you got to understand, like, they don't do what works. They just don't do what works. Like, when something works, they think they have to use it in a different way. And this doesn't make any sense. We really have become a joke of an organization. We used to be proud. 5 years, 3 World Series. No one thought we could do something like that. One-upping a bunch of other teams. Yeah. Well, Katniss says Farhan ain't it. I hope he's gone soon. He made Giants baseball boring. Exactly. This team used to be so exciting. We took a bunch of ragtag misfits and unknown guys or people that were doubted and turned them into titans. And that was exciting for a lot of people. It's not like today where we're trying to outsmart everybody and trying to do something like that. We're not doing that. Skaters on baseball. Lee leads off next year, followed by Kim, then Ramos, and fourth will be our new acquisition. I don't know about Kim being a member of this team. I do think that it would be an interesting notion of bringing on a guy like Ha-Seong Kim. He's a good player, Ha-Seong Kim. I'm just not sure. I'm just going to look up his stuff too. I mean, sorry, it's just loading a little bit. I mean, Ha-Seong Kim, he has some good stuff to him. He's a good fielder. He's got good arm strength. He's fast. He can steal bases. He's had some good seasons, but the problem is his batting average and slugging percentage are really low. He doesn't hit for a lot of power, and I'm not sure if I would trust that. I don't think he's a bad player. I think that getting Adames would be interesting. I would prefer Adames. He would be a guy that I would be totally for. I mean, Willy Adames, I've watched his game, and I think that's a shortstop. He's a great baseball player. But yeah, Morkatna says Farhan ain't got. I hope he's gone soon. He made the Giants baseball. Oh, I already answered that, but yeah, that is definitely true. Skaters on baseball officially eliminated means Farhan's gone any day. I hope so. I hope that he is gone, because if he's not gone, we will have another season like this. We will suffer. Jung-Hoo Lee, Tyler Fitzgerald, Elliot Ramos, all of the good young players on this team, Logan Webb, and Hayden Birdsong and Kyle Harrison will suffer because we're not trying to do anything. We're just aimlessly playing baseball. We're not actually doing anything. And if we do that, then we will continue to suck. And that's a problem. He's gone by October 2nd. That's definitely possible. Gilbert Gamboa. I haven't looked at the stats to back it up, but it seems like there are so many players that have 1 or 3 good seasons coming up, and then they fall off and become platoon players. It's a repeating cycle. I don't disagree with that. There are a lot of good players that just suddenly fall off, but we do need to find guys who can play every day. More than anything else, we need to find guys who can play every day and don't get platooned, because platooning is idiotic in my opinion. Who cares about lefty-righty? I'm just keeping it real. Lefty-righty is not applicable to every situation, okay? Lefty-righty is accurate in some ways because the stats do show when lefties hit lefties, they hit worse, and when righties hit righties, they hit worse. But that's not always the case. Sometimes things change. There's an exception to every single rule in the book, and it's idiotic to say that we can't do that, because with Ramos, we give him chances against righties. Yeah, he does well against lefties, but who needs that? We need to have him play every day, because when he does hit well, he is the best player in baseball. He's what am I saying? That's so dumb. He's the best player on our team. Sorry. He's one of the best players on our team. He's one of the best players that we have. And that's it. How can we get Vladdy? He's my number one. I like the notion of getting Vladdy, but here's the biggest problem. Bryce Eldridge down in AAA has been doing super well as of late, and he plays first base like Vladdy. So if we were going to get him, we would trade up a haul of prospects. That would be the biggest thing that we would do. We would have to give up maybe 1 or 2 other, like maybe a good starting pitcher, and I wouldn't want to do that because it's just such a risky notion. As good as Vladdy is, especially considering Eldridge. Yeah, I know we could DH him. Right, we could DH him, but Vladdy is a Gold Glove first baseman. He's not going to want to play as a DH the entire time. He can do that, but why would he? As a player, he wants to play on the field as well. And his secondary position, third base, has been taken over by Matt Chapman. We could like corner outfield him, like in some weird way, but it's interesting. Grand Admiral says, catcher, Joey Bart. First base, J.D. Davis. Second base, Mauricio Dubon. Shortstop, Brandon Crawford. Third base, Donnie Barrels. Left, Connor Joe. Center field, Fairchild. Our right field, Haniger. Starting pitcher, Gosman. Right-handed relief pitcher, Baroa. Closing pitcher, Gregory Santos. Anti-Farhan lineup can beat the current lineup, sadly. I don't disagree with that. I think that he is that although those guys have gone on to have better careers ever since they left Farhan. The Bart situation in particular was so annoying because Joey Bart had been really struggling, and instead of like giving him a chance to be a backup, we left him out in the cold, and that was idiot. Mitch Haniger, I actually think we kind of won that trade because Haniger has been playing really badly for a really terrible Mariners team. I think Craw is a good player. He's obviously older now, but I actually would give him a chance against this current team. Dubon is a really good player for the Houston Astros, and he would be like one of the top players in our lineup if we had kept him. We screwed him over, and he reasonably talked trash about us when he came back to San Francisco when he was playing against us. But yeah, you're being silly, obviously, but it's, it shows that he's given away a lot of good players that could have been do well. And you're all right. Cross should retire. But yeah, skaters on baseball. Whisenhunt, Luciano, Keaton win for Vladdy. Eldridge can split DH. I don't know about that. I really don't. Again, I'm not a guy who is in favor of in any way platooning people. I believe in everyday players. And I think that Vladdy is, again, a fantastic player. I think he should be away from Toronto because Toronto is actually in a worse state than we are in a lot of ways because they are given expectations. We aren't given many expectations other than ourselves as fans. And it's interesting there, but yeah. Gilbert Gamboa says, I want Snell back, but they should prioritize hitting. I agree. I think that we really need to be serious about hitting. Whisenhunt, and also I want to say that Whisenhunt is a really good prospect. And Whisenhunt's a really good prospect. It's just he's had struggles. And Keaton Winn, I also really like. The problem with Keaton Winn is that he has been very, very injured a lot of the time. And especially like he had like a good few starts to start the year. He was doing very well. The problem with Keaton Winn is that as time went on, he had like that forearm injury, and then he got not the Tommy John, but he had that nerve issue in his elbow. And everyone he had some good moments, especially with that split finger, and he played well. The problem is after those two injuries, he just he wasn't the same. And I'm hoping, because I am a believer that those injuries were the reason why he played so badly and he was never the same. And I'm just hoping that if he comes back next year as a full-time guy, he'll do well because he's a young man. He's like 25, 26. He can really do better than what he is right now. And I really like I think he can do well. I like a guy who can throw a good split finger. But as for Whisenhunt, I'm not sure. I really hope that we just don't trade future guys because I'm not even sure if Vladdy would want to sign here. That's the biggest issue. Even though he is a good right-handed bat, and that would give him upside in a park like this, because in this park, if you have enough power, you can square it and get it over the left field wall. Do you see us giving Crawford a one-day contract so he can retire as Giant, especially now that we are out of it? I can see that. I really can. I think he needs to be honored. Like Buster, Brandon, all the guys that gave their time, their life to this team, guys like, guys that are older now, but that have given their time, Hunter Pence, guys like Blanco. Like, I really, really want to see him retire as a Giant, just one day, let him play one last time for this team. Then we say goodbye, because I love Craw. He was a guy who gave me a lot of memories, and I wish that he could have stayed just one more year as a leader, honestly. But yeah, Grand Admiral Shanahan, I'm conflicted if I want Whisenhunt to be a nasty lefty in the pen and really weaponize the changeup like Devin Williams, or stay the course as a starter. That is a good question. That is a really good question, because if you have a nasty lefty like Whisenhunt in the pen that you bring out against other guys, especially since a guy like with Whisenhunt, if you have a split finger and a changeup against righties as well as a lefty, you're going to kill him. you will kill him and you'll make it look easy. And I that's interesting. I do think he's had some really good performances. Grand Admiral. I think that Whisenhunt, it's like you said, you reported this last night. He had 5 Ks, 1 earned run in like 5 innings pitched. That's pretty good. It's just about the consistency, and the consistency can really, really help you. And like Mark Graves says right here, a lot of guys just want to be starters because starters get paid more. But I think a lot of things that are valued more, in my opinion, less than starting pitching is expensive and it's very valuable. But a lot of people underrate how helpful bullpen arms are. And I think that if we were able to bring him into the pen, I think he could do a good job. It's just figuring it out. But I do think he will try and be a starter for a while. And if that fails, then I think we're going to go the route of Grand Admiral, and we're going to go and try and see if we can put him in the pen. Because if you put a guy like that in the pen, it's going to be very tough for teams to kind of anticipate what to do with that. But I am a believer that he will probably stay a starter, I think, because there's just so much potential as a player. I just want them to replace Taylor Rogers. That's understandable because Taylor Rogers, I've never seen a guy that's got such a good ERA, has got such good stats, and such an interesting way of playing baseball that I've never felt less confident in. Because whenever I watch him pitch, I'm like, is he going to give up some hard contact or is he actually going to get somebody out? Because I watch him and I'm like, like I don't really like the guy as a player. I don't think he's a bad player necessarily, but he's just not great. I mean, I don't have confidence in him. Let me just get his numbers, actually. I just want to look at his stuff because he actually seems to have good stuff. I'm not stuff, but like looking at his like percentages and stuff like that, he seems to be a good player. The problem is, as a reliever, I've never been less confident because you look at his ERA and you think, wow, that's actually pretty good. But his whip is just super bad for a reliever. Look, guys are going to have off years. Both Rogers have been decent. I think that Tyler has been good. I'm not on the train of, oh yeah, Tyler Rogers actually a bad reliever. He's a frustrating player sometimes, but like most times he'll have like 5 good games and then like 1 bad game. He'll have another 5 good games and 1 bad game. He's a good player. I don't think he's a bad player. I think Rogers has been good. It's just with Taylor Rogers, he just doesn't strike people out like a reliever needs to do. He doesn't strike out as many people as I would like. I mean, he's good at some stuff, and I think that he's a good player. I just don't necessarily trust him. And as Gilbert Gamboa says, the bullpen didn't do bad down the stretch. I thought they would be way worse. I agree. I think the bullpen has actually been okay. Ever since we moved Ryan Walker to the closer spot, let guys like Taylor Rogers and Tyler Rogers take over 7th and 8th inning duties. We've let Sean Jelly and Spencer Bivens take over there. I think they've done a good job there. They've been okay. I don't think they've been anything fantastic. They've just been, interesting in a lot of ways. You just described what a middle relief pitcher is. I'm not saying that he's a bad player, Taylor Rogers. I just think that a lot of what he does is just a little, he's just such – again, it's just a feeling of where he's like, where they like, if they get enough contact on him, it's going to be bad. And he just doesn't strike out enough people. I need guys in my pen to be able to strike people out. Again, this is a subjective thing, but I do think that Taylor Rogers is a good player. I think Shanahan says, Grand Admiral says this right. He just doesn't feel that clutch. He gets in high leverage moments, like he can let it get away from him. As he said, I tolerate Tyler and Taylor, but is steady, and Taylor's steady, but I can't stand Taylor because he's so anti-clutch. There's just been so many blown higher leverage moments like this. And I agree. There's just been a couple moments or like a more high leverage moments blown, because with Tyler, again, he has like 5 good games, 1 bad game, and then another 5 good games because I trust him to do that. And again, I used to be on a, oh yeah, he's a bad reliever, I don't trust him. But he's not bad. I think that Tyler is a good player, but Taylor is just a little just unsteady. That's the biggest problem with Taylor for me. Going back to look at his stuff. (2019) Not to mention, one of the things that's a bigger problem with Taylor Rogers, in my opinion, is that he doesn't throw with as much velocity as you would like, especially for a lefty in that situation, because his velocity should be a little higher, in my opinion. Because when you have relievers in the pen, these guys usually throw pretty fast, unless you're a specialist like Tyler Rogers, who's a submariner. The reason why I trust Tyler Rogers to throw slower is because a lot of teams don't know how to hit him that well. And I just don't know about Taylor because he should be able to throw a little faster and or with a little more velocity to his pitches. I'm not saying he's a bad player again. I'm just saying another thing about Taylor Rogers, in my opinion, is that he doesn't get people to chase his pitches a lot of the time. Because whenever I watch him pitch, he just doesn't get a lot of chase. He does get outs, he gets people out, but the biggest problem with him is that when I watch him, he doesn't get people to chase and swing and miss at his pitches. And when that happens, that can create a problem because you need a guy who can lock down innings by, getting people into the wrong counts where they get into like a 1-2 or a 2-0 or an 0-2. It's just those guys, you need to be able to get people to swing and miss, especially with the sweeper that he has. He throws it really well across, but he doesn't get a lot of swing and miss on that, which is surprising for a guy who's as good as he is, or according to his stats, as good as he is. I also like to point out the guy's whip and how he's not really like a guy who gets people out that much. He walks people and gets people hits a lot of the time, and that's a problem. Sinker, slider, four-seamer. Well, anything else anyone wants to talk about? Because I'm going to start winding this down in like 7 minutes. Because I don't think I have that much to say other than like we absolutely blew this game today. And Mark Canha gave up a really dumb, he gave up a dumb double play up the middle. And it was a really dumb one. Like, that did not have to happen. Like, come on. I think the pen could be solid next year. Not sure what to make of Duvall. I think Duvall is going to get traded for a pittance because he's been so bad this year. He should have been traded at the deadline because some team would have been willing to pounce on his talent purely. He's just not as good as he was a year ago. I'm really hoping we don't give him another chance because it's like I want to see this team do well. Sorry. I want to see this team do well, but yeah. I think Grand Admiral's plan, Robbie Ray and Duvall in a package for a younger starter. I like that. I think that with knowing how this is going to go, Robbie Ray is going to opt into his contract. He's going to ask for his money. And then we're going to trade him to a team that probably wants him. Robbie Ray and Duvall can both improve again, I think, and that can give us something decent in the future. I'm just hoping some team is willing to be not dumb enough, but would be willing to take on the opportunity of this experiment. But yeah, Moji, Lamont Wade struggled today. He's been declining. Yeah, he has been declining. The guy swings and misses all the time. Lamont used to be pretty good. I thought he was going to do well this season before he got injured. He had that hamstring, and Yeah, that was just it's too bad because I thought he was going to do well this season as like a first baseman platooning, and I wanted to see him do well. But the problem is he just has all these moments where you're like, what the heck are you doing, man? Because he's not a horrible player necessarily, but he's just not that great. He gets on base. As a wise man once said, he can't hit, but he can't feel. But what can he do? Gets on base. And that again, that's just an example of Farhan Zaidi doing what he's always done, which is just being an idiot and having people come onto the team that are only good at like one thing. Wade, his average used to be super good, and now he's been super bad. He's been mired in a really bad slump. He hasn't had a good game at a little bit. Actually, he had an okay game yesterday, but he has not been great. He has just been declining super fast. But yeah, this is a depressing state of Giants baseball. But as for the other thing, I think Duvall has to be traded. I don't see him sticking around. I mean, like after all I think it's just the relationship between him and the Giants is irreconcilable at this point. It's not going to be something that can be fixed. It's going to be something that is fixed by a trade because he will not be here to fix it in the first place. It's just not happening, man. It's not happening. And well, it's really too bad because he was doing super well last year. I'm going to look at that too because I mean, how do you have an over 5 ERA after a year where you've had a 2.93? That's so insane to me. Like, how do you do that? Like, you've fallen off of that quickly. The guy gives up way too much contact. He walks too many people. He lets people hit the ball super hard. He's lost us so many games, and I don't think he's not going to get another chance, I don't think. Because last I checked, I think his contract's also about to run out too. So his control might be gone too soon. You really wonder what could have been with the season, y'all, since we're now officially eliminated. But looking at the start of the season, even with Farhan being as bad as he was, we all kind of thought, you know what, maybe with all the guys that have came in, maybe we can overcome that. But one of them has been traded. One of them got badly injured enough to not be able to play the rest of the season. One of them had a horrible start to the season and then had an incredible second half. And the other one has been re-signed to be with this team long term. And I mentioned traded, right? One of them got traded. Oh my gosh. We really are. We could have been something, I thought. And I'm really hoping that this season is a season we look back on and say, this is as good as it got. Because I don't want that to be the case. I think next season we can be better than what we are right now. It's just about trying to figure out the consistency. And most of all, we need a masher in the middle of the lineup that can hit with runners on base. That's the biggest problem we will always have, or we've had so far, is hitting with people on base. And if we continue to have that problem, we will continue to suck. That's the biggest problem with Farhan Zaidi's teams. They can't hit with runners in scoring position. That's even true for the 2021 team in the NLDS. All right, we have like a minute left. So if anybody has anything else to say that I might be able to add to, I think I'm about to bounce out of here and just kind of get ready to go watch the game tonight between the Jets and the Patriots, even though that was going to be a horrible game. Does anybody have predictions for that, actually? Because I'm predicting horrible stuff. I think Gilbert Gamboa says, I think Conforto hurt this team the most. They had put way too much stock into him. I agree. He's a left-handed bat. He played well for part of the season before he had his hamstring issue. Ever since then, he has been whiffing with all the bases on people on. I don't know. He's just been a whiff. He just can't hit when the situation calls for it. He's not a good hitter. He's just so bad at it too. I mean, the New York Mets literally called us during the trade deadline and said, hey, we would like him back. We'll give you something. We didn't do a damn thing, did we? All right, y'all. I think that's it for us. That's it for this one. thank you for watching the show. Hey, go watch Jock and the Doc. Go watch Giant Sports Talk Live later. Go watch all the shows. Go watch Shark Bite and a lot of these other shows related to Northern Lights Entertainment. Keep having fun, y'all. Have a good day. Have a good time. All right. We'll see you later.
You've been watching the Northern California Sports and Entertainment Network, a Northern Lights Entertainment broadcasting station.